Hi, I'm Chef Steve. Welcome to the Care Kitchen, where we cook with kindness. This program is brought to you by ComForCare and At Your Side. ComForCare and At Your Side provides personal care for people throughout the United States and Canada. I'm Chef Steve with our program here in the Care Kitchen every Thursday at 1 p.m. Preparing dishes from the Care Kitchen cookbook and also just getting creative and sort of just stretching out and seeing all the amazing things that we can do in cooking using various ingredients that we're discovering, and I hope I'm introducing you to some new things. And I'm also having an opportunity to experiment because that's truly what cooking is. It's creativity. It's figuring out what goes together and what you like, and the person you're cooking for, what their preferences are, and also keeping in mind nutrition and making sure that we're eating fresh, beautifully prepared meals with the best ingredients available and that addresses the nutritional needs of whoever we're cooking for, whether it be someone in our care, family member, or ourselves. Today's program is all about slow cooking. Now, when we think of slow cooking, we think of a crock pot. A crock pot is a great slow cooker, but slow cooking is more of a process. It's really more about the process than it is about the equipment we use. So we can do slow cooking in a crock pot, certainly. We can do slow cooking in an oven by turning the temperature down, covering the food. We can do slow cooking on the stove by using a low temperature that's low and slow cook time. And so today we're going to demonstrate one of the recipes from the Care Kitchen cookbook. That's a meatball recipe. It's Drop Meatballs and Sauce. And it's a very simple recipe, but it's very delicious. And unlike a traditional meatball recipe, where typically you make the meatballs and then you brown them in a pan or sometimes brown them in the oven, these are just simply dropped into the sauce and slow cooked for about an hour and a half or so. So what we're going to do is we're going to get the recipe together, and then we're going to put it on, let it cook, and then we'll come back a little bit later after that recipe is done, and I'll show you what that finished product looks like. We'll serve it with some angel hair pasta, and we'll give it a taste, and we'll see what we think. I know this recipe is very good, very delicious, and it's a great way to get lots and lots of flavor infused into our meatballs by doing it this way. But slow cooking in general really has a lot of benefits because it allows you to engage with that person that you're cooking for, have time to do other things aside from spending that time in the kitchen, and also take that time to have conversations with that person in your care. Maybe it's just your family, but the idea is if we eliminate some of these sort of tedious, cumbersome steps, then we have time for things that really matter, social engagement, having time for ourselves. Maybe you need to take a rest, a little bit of time, and know that your meal is cooking away slowly and will be ready when you want it. So let's get into the recipe here. And this is going to be the Drop Meatball and Sauce recipe that's in the Care Kitchen cookbook. By the way, the Care Kitchen cookbook will be available very soon on Amazon. They tell me any day now. I will let you know as soon as it's available and let you know where to find it on Amazon. Okay, well, let's get into our recipe now, Drop Meatballs with Sauce. Okay, so first thing I'm going to do, I've got my pot right here, ready to go, and I'm going to do this in a pot today on the stove. Now, this is slow cooking, the Drop Meatball recipe, but done in a pot on the stove, covered, and we're going to let that cook and simmer at a low heat for about an hour and a half. So to start off, we need to get a can of crushed tomatoes in the pot. Now, I've showed you this device before. This is a great can opener, hands-free, and the best part of it is there are no sharp edges when it's done. So if you have any questions about what I'm using here, please feel free to comment and ask me the question. I can direct you to what this is and where you can find this device, but it's great for safety because there are no sharp edges, and also it does it by itself, so there's no strength or anything needed to be able to do this. Okay, so I'm going to show you this. We're going to put that can opener right on there, press the button, and like a miracle, it sort of goes around the can, like so. And this thing, as many times as I use it, it amazes me every time because it's so clever, and I have no idea how it works, but it works. And so that's a great thing. And there are no sharp edges anywhere. So especially as people age, and maybe we're working with people who may be living with dementia, these kinds of safety devices are really a critical aspect of care. Okay, so it should be done here now, and it is. And you see what happened there? This lid comes off, has no sharp edges on it, and almost fits right back on the can. You wouldn't even know the can was open, and it certainly is. So, okay, we've got our can of crushed tomatoes going into the pot. Okay. And of course, as always, I like to clean as I go so that we don't have any messes hanging around. I have these nice kitchen towels. These things are great because they can go in the wash. You can bleach them, but they're just a great handy thing to have because they do a great job cleaning, and you have no waste. You just launder these things. Of course, paper towels are great to have too, but these are great for just cleaning up and wiping down as you go. Okay, so I've got my crushed tomatoes in the pot ready to go. Okay, we'll just put those aside for a second. I have a pound of ground beef right here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to add an egg to this. We're going to crack an egg in there. Okay. So we've got our egg cracked in there. And of course, I got a couple of little pieces of shell in there. So even Chef Steve is not perfect when it comes to cracking an egg and not having any shells in it. So anyway, we've got our egg in there. We've got our meat in there. Now we're going to put in our other ingredients. We have panko breadcrumbs that are going in. We'll put those in. And the nice thing about the panko breadcrumb, it's a little bit of a coarser breadcrumb, and it really absorbs and gives very good texture in things like meatballs, meatloaf, anything that you want to add that sort of binder to and expand it a little bit. So we've got our panko breadcrumbs. Now we're going to put in our garlic powder, and you've got the amounts in the recipe in the Care Kitchen cookbook. It's about a tablespoon of garlic powder, and a tablespoon of onion powder goes in. About a tablespoon of oregano, and then we've got our salt. Put our salt in, and we've got some of our fresh ground black pepper going in. Okay, so now we have all of our meatball ingredients in the bowl. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to mix this. Now, one of the great things, and I learned this many years ago, a chef told me that your most valuable tool for doing anything in the kitchen is your hands, and including mixing meatballs. Now, you don't have to do it this way, and if you're a little squeamish about putting your hand into the meat and doing it, then certainly you could wear a glove, you could use a spoon, but I'm going to put my hand right in here. This is the way I've always done it. Get this all mixed up, and then I'm going to take a little minute and wash my hands thoroughly. The CDC says 20 seconds of hand washing with warm water and soap takes away any kind of bacteria that may be harmful to us. So I'm going to get in here now and start mixing this up. And try to do this, of course, with a minimum of mess on the sides of the bowl and the counter, but you can only do what you can do. I just try to take it slow and be careful as I go. This is one of the most efficient ways that I know to make sure that all the ingredients are very well blended. Okay. All right. So we're almost there. This is getting to a place where we can start just about getting our meatballs in the pot and get our dish working. Okay. This looks like it's pretty well blended now. So what I'm going to do is just leave this for a minute, and I'm going to just give my hands a wash, and I'll be right back. Okay, so I've washed my hands and getting ready now to complete our first part of the recipe. We've got our meatballs mixed up here. We've got our sauce, canned tomato, crushed tomato in the pot. Now, this is very interesting about this particular recipe. I never have to add seasonings to the tomato because when I do the recipe this way with the drop meatballs, the meatballs are so flavorful, the spicing, that it infuses the whole dish. So the tomatoes get infused with flavor from the meat gets infused with flavor from the tomatoes, and I'm also putting in here some bell peppers that I had left over that I'm putting in there, which really gives it a great flavor. So now I've got my bell peppers in there with my tomatoes. I'm going to now make meatballs and just drop them right into the pot. I'm going to use a scoop. This is a great way to do it. You can get consistency in the meatballs, and it also is a pretty neat way to do it. So I'm just going to take a scoop and just scoop my meatballs and just drop them into the pot. So that's what it looks like in there. And we're going to keep going here with our meatballs. Okay. And as you can see, this is like such a simple recipe, and it is amazing how delicious this dish turns out. Always amazed by the flavor that comes through on this particular dish. And one more. We got that in there. Okay, so we've got all of our meat in the pot, and what I'm going to do is just get everything kind of submerged a little bit into the pot so that everything is kind of covered. So we're just going to make a little space here, and we've got there tomatoes covering, peppers in here, so we're really going to have an amazing flavor in this when this is done. Okay, so we've got that together, and what I'm going to do now is just put this on the stove, and we're going to cook it on a low temperature. I've got a lid on here, and we're going to get that cooking, and we'll be back later on. I'm going to show you what this looks like when it's all done, and we're going to taste it. So let's get it cooking, and I'll be back with you in a little while. Thanks. Okay, so we're back now. We've cooked our drop meatballs and sauce for about an hour and a half, and it's ready to go. Now, in the meantime, while I was waiting for our meatballs to cook, I cooked some angel hair pasta, which I have right here, that's hot and ready to go. So I'm going to put a portion of that pasta in our bowl here. and usually serve around 2/3 of a cup of pasta is a good portion for most people. And we have to keep in mind, of course, as people age, and I've mentioned this many times, that appetite diminishes. So, we don't want to make someone feel overwhelmed with the amount of food that's on their plate. So, anyway, that being said, let's continue plating up. Okay, so I've got my pasta in the plate and our drop meatballs and sauce. We're going to pull that lid off. That's been cooking for about an hour and a half, and it looks very well blended and delicious. So I'm going to take out a couple of meatballs. This portion like this, I think 2 meatballs is certainly adequate in this kind of a dish. And we'll get our sauce on there, some of the peppers that we put in, and that just looks so tempting and delicious, doesn't it? It looks great. And let's top it with a little bit of Parmesan cheese, and we have an amazing meal. And there it is. That's our drop meatballs and sauce served over pasta, and that looks great. So I'm going to give it a taste now. Okay, so let's give this a little taste, see what we got. We get a little piece of that meatball. It's nice texture, really looks good. And a little bit of the noodle with it, a little bit of pasta. Let's get a little bit and get a twirl on this. I remember as a kid trying to figure out how to eat spaghetti without getting it all over my shirt. And I guess it's still a struggle in so many ways to be delicate in eating this great dish. And the more I play around trying to get this on the fork, the hungrier I get. That is so delicious. I mean, there's so much flavor in those meatballs and that sauce. It's just so good. And of course, such a classic. I mean, this particular dish was always my favorite as a kid. So it's just great to be able to make it for you. And this is such a simple recipe. I encourage you to try it. I want to remind you, this program is brought to you by ComForCare and At Your Side. And I'm Chef Steve here with our program every Thursday at 1 p.m. Eastern, bringing you recipes from the Care Kitchen cookbook, introducing you to all sorts of ingredients, cooking techniques, kitchen equipment, all kinds of things like that. And it's a pleasure for me to be here with you in the Care Kitchen. We cook with kindness, kindness being the most important ingredient, making delicious food that we all love and customize and personalize for whomever we're cooking it for or ourselves. Well, I thank you for joining me today in the Care Kitchen, and I hope you'll join me next time. I'm here every Thursday at 1 p.m. Eastern. Chef Steve, have a great day. I'm going to enjoy my meal here, and I hope that you'll cook with kindness and have some fun in the kitchen. See you next time. Thanks.